It's 9 in the morning now, and we're leaving Liverpool. We arrived here yesterday evening, walked around the city center a bit. Someone in the group took a bus tour of the memorable places of the Fab Four Beatles. And I told you all about it in the previous video. And today we're heading along the north coast of Wales to the Welsh port town of Holyhead. There's a ferry crossing from Great Britain to Ireland there, namely to its capital, Dublin. But along the way, we'll make a couple of stops at interesting tourist places. We've been driving for just over an hour now and are approaching the small town of Conwy with a population of just over 14,000. The town is located on the banks of the River Conwy and close to Snowdonia National Park, making it a great base for exploring the mountains and the beautiful surrounding countryside. I imagine tourism is a big contributor to the town's economy. The main attractions of the city are the ancient Conwy Castle and the smallest house in Great Britain. Of course, there is also a suspension footbridge crossing the river and an old railway bridge, which were built in the 19th century. There are also other old houses from the 14th and 16th centuries restored and protected by the National Trust. But we do not have enough time for an excursion to all these places, so I will briefly show the most interesting. There is an arch ahead, and it leads to the embankment. Now we are going to look at the house listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the smallest house in Great Britain. It is now a museum and a popular place for tourists. What you see painted red under the tiny roof is the whole house. Let's go in and see what's inside. The width of the house is 1.80 meters. The depth is 3 meters, and the height is also 3 meters on 2 floors. That is 1.5 meters on each floor. The last resident here was Robert Jones, a fisherman 1 meter 90 centimeters tall. The interior is an example of how to get by with a minimum amount of space. There is a fireplace where food was prepared, a folding shelf with a lifting seat, a round table, and on the second floor, a bedroom with a long single bed and a dressing table. I'll show it to you now. I don't think Robert was comfortable here, but he slept here somehow. This house now belongs to Jen Tiley, a relative of Jones, whose family has been passing the house down through the generations for over 130 years. This is probably how tall Robert looked in front of his tiny home. He could look through the window on the second floor. We are now on the embankment, but not by the water. So I'll show you what's going on there. And here are moored various fishing boats. If you want, you can go fishing, both sea fishing in the port and the sea, and freshwater fishing in lakes and rivers. It is said that popular catches here are salmon and trout. Of the freshwater ones, perch and flounder. We are definitely not interested in fishing today. So we go for a walk around the city, and in particular in the direction of Conwy Castle. There it is, towering on a cliff, which is what determined its military power. I believe that the place where we are now is this cliff. And the city itself is below. We have already walked onto the bridge to look down on the marina or the harbor with sailboats. Now they are not under sail, maybe because there is no wind. We make our way along a stone building overgrown with ivy. I don't know what is behind this mysterious door. We were unable to go in. Maybe it's for the best. We came closer to the castle wall. This 20-meter high wall surrounds a castle about 1 kilometer, 300 meters long. Let's look at the castle from above. To do this, we go through this arch and climb the wall. Conwy Castle covers an area of just over 4 square kilometers. It was built in the late 13th century by Edward.The. of England as part of his conquest of Wales and served as a strategically important fortress. Over the course of 4 years, 1,500 men worked from March to October to build these walls and the castle. It consists of 2 concentric courtyards, surrounded by 8 round towers and loopholes, and is one of the best preserved medieval fortifications in Britain. Conwy town walls are also an important historical monument, encircling the town center and offering stunning views of the mountains and sea and ancient bridges. I have already mentioned the early 19th century footbridge and the mid-19th century railway bridge. There is much more to see in the castle, but it is time for us to wrap up. Finally, we went into a souvenir shop, of which there are naturally many here. This is what they offer tourists. For example, a dragon with glowing eyes. I ran through the rows.
I want to buy a tea towel, but you know, like you get some tea towels that don't work properly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? That it's not the right fabric, and you never really quite
You
know
can
if
see
you wash
what
it.
souvenirs you could choose for yourself here. I was attracted by this stand. What interesting mugs. There are various knights here, both on horseback and without them.
got Harry Potter. Look at you.
I also liked these women's hats. How cute! But I would look ridiculous in such a hat.
Oh, I want to get this.
With this, we say goodbye to the town of Conwy and go to the village famous for having the longest name in Europe and the longest English language name of a settlement in the world. It's about a half-hour drive from Conwy to this village, so we were there soon. It's located on the island of Anglesey in Wales. The village has a population of about 3,000, and the residents are mainly engaged in agriculture and farming. Mainly sheep farming, I suppose. The sheep said yes. Of course, tourists also contribute to the economy of this settlement. And for them, there are 69 hotels, guest houses, and other accommodation options in and around the village, according to Booking. Of course, there are cafes and restaurants. I suppose there is plenty of work for the locals. Another thing that attracts this place are passengers on passing trains. Those who pass by the station for the first time often go out onto the platform to take a photo with this iconic sign. Well, that's pretty much how I am here. So who gave this settlement such an oddly long name? And what does it mean? The town originally had a shorter, easier to pronounce name, Llanfair Polgwyngyl. But in the late 19th century, in a joking attempt to attract tourists, a local tailor added the remaining syllables, bringing the total length to 58 letters. And it worked. The village became world famous. Of course, the locals themselves use a shortened version, such as Llanfair PG or just Llanfair Pulel. But if you ask them if they can pronounce the entire 58-letter name, and visitors ask the tourist office staff to do it many times a day, they will, of course, do it for you. As for the meaning of this long word, in Welsh it means the Church of St. Mary in the hollow of the white hazel by the turbulent whirlpool, and the Church of St. Tacilio by the Red Cave. There's not much to do in Llanfair PG, as it's marked on most maps, other than take pictures against the backdrop of the numerous signs with the village's name. And of course, you can pop into the souvenir supermarket James Pringle Weavers. It's located next to the train station and serves large bus tours. By the way, if you politely ask the supermarket employees to stamp your passport with the name of the village, well, for fun, they'll stamp it for you. Our bus also stopped at the supermarket for an hour or so. Among other things, there is a cafeteria there where you can sit down and have a snack. And for those who want to improve their mood or relieve travel stress, there is a wide range of various drinks. Of course, not only strong ones. Well, and someone may have bought souvenirs for themselves. Maybe someone wanted to dress up here? For example, buy a t-shirt with the name of the village. That's what I can assume. And we, several curious members of the group, amused ourselves by trying to pronounce the name of the village without stop and mistakes, and asked the director of our tour, Andy, to teach us. He was already doing it quite well. We are not the first group he brings here. I can't say that we were doing this task good enough. If there's one who does it effortlessly, it's meteorologist Liam Dutton. Here's a clip from the weather forecast.
Temperature across the UK, just 12 degrees over coastal parts of eastern England with cloudy skies, but in the sunshine in northwest Wales at RAF Mona, just up the road from Llanfair Pwllgwyn, Gellgogera Cwndrobwll, Llantysilio Gogogoch. The temperature.
So how can you help yourself master this difficult task? Here's a tip from local pub owner Kevin Bryant.
Let's see. Llanfair Pwllgwyn, Gellgogera Cwndrobwll, Llantysilio Gogogoch.
God, you did it.
I took Kevin's advice and tried myself as a meteorologist. Hot weather is expected in Llanfair Pwllgwyn Gogerich Wyrndrob Wallenties, Ilio Gogok today. Turn on the air conditioners. But Liam Dutton didn't believe me.
Ha 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 ha! Sorry, but you're cheating. The AI said it.
That was a joke, of course. You will probably be surprised, but the village where we stayed does not have the longest name in the world. For example, a hill in New Zealand has a name of 92 letters. This is definitely the longest geographical name in the world. It is listed in the Guinness Book of Records in a short version of 85 letters. Here's how it's pronounced correctly.
Tau mata waka tangi hanga ko au o tamatea turipu kaka piki maunga horo nuku voka iwi he nua ki tana tahu.
The meaning of this word is something like the hill of the flute playing by Tamatea, who was blown hither from afar, had a slit penis, grazed his knees climbing mountains, fell on the earth, and encircled the land to his beloved one. Keep in mind that this whole sentence is one word, a toponym, scientifically speaking. The funny thing here is that the indigenous people of New Zealand claim that this long name has always been used by the locals, the Maori. But the inhabitants of Wales, which I told you about earlier, claim that this toponym was invented specifically to surpass their longest name in Great Britain. What a funny situation. Well, for us it's time to move on to the port city of Holyhead. The distance to this settlement is about 30 kilometers, and soon we were already there. The bus went straight to the port, and we did not go out into the town. But I'll very briefly tell you what else, except the port, you can see in this place with a population of about 12,000. For example, you can see the lighthouses. There are two of them, Holyhead Breakwater and Holyhead Mail Pier Lighthouse, also known as the Salt Island Lighthouse. Many tourists come to see the ancient Roman Holyhead Fort, known as Caer Gibbie. It is a well-preserved coastal fortification dating back to the late 3rd or early 4th century AD. It was probably built to protect against Irish raids, as it is strategically located overlooking the sea. The fort's walls, some of which are 4 meters high, remain to this day, as do the remains of the corner towers. Inside the fort is the Church of St. Sibbe, another popular tourist attraction. You can walk along the ancient buildings, or you can take a look at this corner of the island, which is dotted with the remains of ancient structures, burial chambers and stone pillars, indicating the existence of human settlements here, at least since the Neolithic period. Well, for those who are interested in how the locals live, I invite you to take a walk around the downtown. This is roughly what the whole town looks like, so I will only show you just a few streets as example. I see a nice hotel building. Someone has drawn some interesting graffiti on this wall. It looks like the locals have a lot of sailboats here, just like in Conwy, judging by the view from the embankment. But it's time to tell you about our ferry, which belongs to the Swedish company Stena Line. This is a capacious cargo passenger ro-ro vessel. It is so called because it carries wheeled vehicles over short distances, along with passengers. Meanwhile, we enter the terminal. Here you can buy tickets for the ferry. For one passenger, it will cost on average from 45 euros for economy class and up to 135 for those who need luxury. Then customs. A bus will take you to the ferry. And from the lower floor, we go up the stairs to the deck, where we will enjoy the time of the sea crossing. Welcome aboard. The ferry has several decks, but I didn't visit them all. There were cafeterias, bars, and restaurants on the deck where our group was. There are also many cozy places along the ferry windows where you can comfortably settle down. You can buy snacks and drinks in the buffet, which is what we did. Want to take a walk and breathe in the fresh sea air? There is such an opportunity. Go down to the promenade deck and walk along the side. It takes 3 hours and 15 minutes to get from Holyhead to Dublin. And by this time, we are almost there. The port of the capital of Ireland is already visible. It serves most of the cargo and passenger traffic of Ireland. Well, our trip is slowly coming to an end. Now we are on the bus, which takes us to the terminal. This is where I finish the story about the trip from Liverpool to Dublin. In the next video, I'll tell a story about what we did in Dublin. Bye-bye to everyone.